الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما والتفرق بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تدع فينا شقيا ولا محروما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It will be inshallah short, just to share some kind of ajr inshallah and to spread the knowledge inshallah. You know, we as Muslims, alhamdulillah, academically we claim that we are holding the truth. For others, they don't believe in that. They think we are not. I mean, Jews and Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, all of them. So everyone should do his own, let's say, homework, how to prove that his is the best. So you need to do marketing and you need to sell your case, if I may put it in this way, in this global society. For others, they don't believe that we have the truth. The simple question that any one of us could be facing at any moment: how do you know that your religion is the truth? Simple question. All of your kids might face it at the school all the time. So I want to provide you with a simple way. Simple way. It will not be complicated, not very academic, because I don't have a time. In a simple way, Quran, first of all, if we prove that Quran from Allah, then we will connect it how to prove that Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah through receiving this message, which has proved that it is from Allah. I will choose just one channel, one way, which is the scientific miracles of the Quran. It's a common sense. No emotions. Math. 1 + 1 = 2. No third option. Now, no one can deny that Prophet Muhammad lived 1400 years ago. True or false? It's a historical fact. This book that was brought by Muhammad contains 1000 ayah, verse out of 6348 ayah, revolves around what we call now science. Okay? So anyone who believes that this book is not from a divine being who is Allah needs to explain how come this 1000 ayah, which contains something we have just discovered, were known incomplete and accuracy 1400 years ago. It's not my job to prove it, it's his job to disprove it. Be careful. When I say, I have it, and this is the evidence, and I will give you examples now. Okay, how did he bring it? You give me explanation. No, I don't believe. No, come. Either. This is called the burden of proof, ibil ithbat, which means the burden of proof or disproof is not mine, it's his, the one who rejects. Okay? Be careful about this. So I will share with you a story, because we are late at night. It's one of my beloved stories. I maybe mentioned this story maybe 100 times since 5 years, wherever I go. The story in simple, Richard Varley, anyone who's above 45, 50 will be able to understand what I'm talking about. 1979, 1980 in the UK, there was something called Rushdie affairs, the satanic verses. Any Muslim Indian, any Pakistani Muslim, any Muslim in the UK, around the world knows what I'm talking about. There was someone with the name of Salman Rushdie. He used to be a Muslim from India. He lived in the UK for a reason that Allah knows what is it. He committed ridda, apostasy, and he wrote a book attacking Prophet Muhammad and his wives. The title of his book was Satanic Verses. In his book was accusing the wives of Prophet Muhammad with a bad, filthy, dirty thing. Anyway, he wrote this book in 1979. So we are talking about more than 40 years ago, okay? After this book was written, you know, Muslims became very angry. They started protesting in the streets of London and in the UK, saying this is wrong, how come? Unfortunately, even though they talk about no hate speech and you cannot promote hate, Queen Elizabeth, which is dead now, she promoted and she endorsed this book personally. Subhanallah. Now, the point. So Richard Varley, our hero of the story, at that time he was a colonel in the special unit of anti-terrorists in the police, in the British police at that time. He's a white, a British, Anglo-Saxon British. This white police person حبيبي from the other door this جزاك الله خير كسبت أجر فيه لو كل ما واحد يدخل يطلع متشوش اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. What I was saying,
British forces, army.
He was a colonel in the British police. So he was given the mission of taking care to keep the streets of London safe. Now, at that time, there was no social media, no internet, nothing to search very quickly, no Google, nothing. The only way for him, he knows nothing about Islam or Muslims. He was given the duty of taking care of the streets from Muslims. But who are Muslims? No idea. So he asked, how can I know anything about those group of people? He was told, read their book, which is the Quran. So he had a copy from the book, started reading the Quran. He says about himself, now and after I finish, go to Google and search for the following title. Still he's alive, he's 70 something now, the hero. In 2014, 2015, he had a special interview with the title, 3 Verses Changed My Life, Richard Varley. I'm quoting him now. He said, now my major, before I became a police officer, I have a double major. He has double major, geology and physics. Now with the background of geology and physics and a police officer specialist in anti-terrorist attacks, he started reading the Quran. He came across many verses. He mentioned 3. He said 3 verses changed my life. The first one was أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي. How the non-believers witnessed by their own eyes that heavens and earth, they were one mass and we split them apart. When he came to this verse, he said, wait. No voice? احنا we disconnected لأنه عندكم قيام. احنا I thought اوكي تمام ان شاء الله. sorry. اوكي. طيب الله يجزيك الخير. Just one minute. I thought they have qiyam, so we disconnected. Now they want to listen. It seems, Allah Alam. Just a minute. Just remind me what I was saying, because I forgot. Okay? Please.
Heaven and earth was split. You were saying about heaven and earth?
كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما. بسم الله. سمعتوا؟ واصل صوت؟ واصل؟ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله. بسم الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. بسم الله تمام. طيب. So the first, shall I continue? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
قلت لك ممكن تحكي من اول وجديد، تبدا القصه من اول وجديد، من اول بدا القران بدا الاسلام وريتشارد فالي بدا يقرا القران.
طيب ماشي ان شاء الله باذن الله. طيب بسم الله. يعني I was saying that يعني in a quick I was saying and how can we be assured that the Quran is from Allah? As Muslims who believe that this Quran from Allah, and we are proud about our religion, and we are supposed to convey this message to every people, we need ourselves to be assured that we have this kind of contentment that this is a true message from Allah. It's not just anything. Not because I was told. How can I prove it? To have this kind of confidence in my heart. So I was giving a simply quick way. I said the way that I want to use is what we call the scientific miracles in the Quran. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was given, he revealed this Quran 1400 years ago. This Quran contains around 348 ayah. About 1000 of them discusses what we call now science or applied science, physics and chemistry and all this kind of cosmos, all these things. So I was quoting the story of Richard Varley very quickly. Richard Varley, a police officer His story started in 1979 when something called Salman Rushdie affair. Salman Rushdie used to be an Indian Muslim. He committed ridda by attacking Islam in the UK, writing a book against Muhammad ﷺ and his wives. So Muslims, they were protesting in the streets of London. Richard Varley, the hero of our story, basically, was given the mission of taking care of the peaceful protesting in that street. So he bought a copy of the Quran to read about those Muslims. Who are they? He had no idea, no contact whatsoever before that. His background, his bachelor degree was double major of physics and geology. So he started reading the Quran, and I was saying, and I hope I reviewed everything he said, alongside Muhammad, the title of the video that I listened to Richard Varley himself in 2015 was 3 verses changed my life. So I'm quoting now. He said, I was reading, I came across قول الله تعالى أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء. Have the non-believers seen or witnessed that we made heavens and earth, they were one mass, رتق ففتقناهما, and we split them apart. He said, now in physics, we have just recently, about 100 plus years, discovered what we call Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory is based on that everything was one small atom of peace and it was boom like this. This is what they say in physics. He said, wait, how did this desert man, he knows nothing about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For him, Muhammad is what? A desert Arab man. Okay, how this desert Arab man in the middle of the desert 1400 years ago knew anything about what we have just discovered a few decades ago? Tick. Okay, first let's say indication. He continued reading. He came across قول الله تعالى والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون. We have, this is the majestic we of God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have made the universe in might, with our might, and we are still expanding. موسعون in Arabic. He doesn't say and أوسعناها. No, موسعون, which means present continuous. We are still expanding. He said, wait. Richard Hubble, 110 years ago, he discovered with his telescope that the universe is what? Expanding. Just 110 years ago. Expanding through the lights of the stars. You know, it's a physical way. They knew that nothing is staying in its place. Expanding, and it will reach to a point where it will come again. Subhanallah. Anyway, he said, how did this desert man knew that the universe is expanding? Who knew that? No one. Second indication. He came across the third one, which is قال وجعلنا الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا. Allah, in the context of telling about how He created and He favored the people on earth, He said, we have paved the surface of earth and we made mountains as pegs, أوتاد, or wedges. He said, other major is what? Geology. He said, in my study, just in mid-60s, he was reading this 1979. By the way, he became a Muslim in 82. He read for 3 years. So he read this verse around, let's say, 80 or 81. He said in mid-60s, which means 25 years ago, just for him at that time. We have just discovered, when we have a cross-section of earth, you discover that real mountains like ice mountains. Now, when you see in the ocean, the tip of the mountain, most of the mountain lies where? Underneath the surface. For example, 70-80% underneath, and you see just 10 or 15% on the top. Exactly the real mountains. Mountains that we see for 200 meters, you know, about 800 under. So, you know, the layer of the surface of the earth, it's stable by the peaks of the mountains, أوتاد. Like subhanAllah, you know, this carpet, if they do not put something, you know, like small pieces, just like this, that claw, to stand on that, and anyone walks on it, it will move with these carpets. The same thing, Autada, Jibal. He said, they are just 25 years ago discovered. How did this Muhammad, this desert, this Arab man knew about this? He came with this conclusion. I'm giving you an idea now, just how to prove. This is not full. We can go to tens of evidences. I'm giving you one because it's easy, understandable for you and for your kids. He came up with this conclusion. He said, then after reading this third verses, I came up with the conclusion that, memorize now, I came up with the conclusion that this book is impossible to be but from a divine being. Look how he concluded. He's not an Arab, he's a non-Muslim, he has a blank sheet in his mind about anything has to do with Muhammad or anything, nothing, just the book. His major, physics and geology. Tak, 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 wait. Impossible, not common sense. This book is from a divine being. He has no idea about who is this God. His name is Allah or Elohim or Allah or Khuda or nothing, okay? Divine being. Then he started reading, it's impossible. How did he discover from 3 verses? But we have 1,000. I'm just conveying to you some of the approaches. If your kid came to, how can I prove? Don't talk about the miraculous aspect of the language of the Quran. Most of Muslims, they don't know Arabic. Forget Arabic. Leave it to the Arabs now. Let's talk about science now. In the Quran, where did Muhammad bring this? I will add it to Richard Varley now. Okay? From the simple experience that we know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was challenging the non-believers, those who denied the resurrection and congregation. قال بلى قادرين على أن نسوي بنانه. Allah was challenging them, those who denied. He said, it's not I will recreate you again, but I will reshape your fingerprints. Your fingerprints. Your fingerprint. At that time, who knew that fingerprint contains, Allah Zikr Khair, contains a unique ID for you? Who knew that? Why fingerprint? Banana. 1400 years ago. Who knew? Who can say, well, Sheikh, maybe the Romans knew, prove it. Maybe the Greek knew, prove it. Or, excuse me, shut up your mouth. The one who's speaking with me like this. Don't just say maybe. Either you have a proof or just accept the powerful of my evidence. Another evidence. In the Quran, while in challenging Allah Zikr Khair, Alhamdulillah. Allah says, in the context of challenging the disbelievers, He said, قال يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء. Allah said, the one who disbelieves, the one who rejects his God, will be facing a status like the very narrow chest in breathing when someone is ascending in the layers of the atmosphere. But who knew at that time that when you go up, oxygen will be less? Who was flying at that time? Who knew aslan that the air contains oxygen less and more up and down? Who knew that? Who can claim? Just a few decades ago. When we discover aslan, the air contains hydrogen or oxygen or something, just a few decades ago. Yes?
Climb the mountain would know.
No,
Climb the mountain would know.
I know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean the scientific that with this accurate. That's يسع يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا يصعد في السماء. It's not just climbing very, very, very little. Maybe they don't know the explanation for the phenomena because they move just meter by meter. Who was يصعد في السماء, which means going up in the heavens. No one was going up in the heavens because the title is يصعد في السماء. No one was doing this at all because this happens within minutes. You see? Which means now when you go with the balloons, for example, or the airplanes, why would you have the oxygen? When a problem happens immediately. This all in all, this kind of very rapid, quick going up and losing the oxygen to a degree and the expression of the Quran يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا. His chest will be narrow like exactly. At that time, no one on earth was able to discover all of this in this way. This is the point. So when you put this with that, and we have many. For example, مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. Allah was talking about that when the water of the oceans or the seas meet, they don't mix. Who knew at that time that they don't mix? You have different salinity and different type of creatures, different level of salt, different, by the way, temperature, different. Later, just in the early 60s, through these submarines, they started to discover these things. Then with the satellites, they started to have special, images to know that there's different colors, different whatever. Testing just 70, 80, 90, 80, 70 years ago, more or less. 90% of the most important discoveries happened just last century. At the end of 19th, 20th century and now. Most of these things. And some of them just recently. But let's come to the womb. The levels of the fetus and the human beings in the womb of his mother. When they discovered it? Just decades ago. Exactly. For hundreds of years, humanity, especially in Europe, they used to think that before we are born, we will be complete shape humans, but very small, and we will start just, maximizing our space, which is not true. The Quran did not just explain exactly nutfa, mudgha, alaqa. It's amazing, even the mudgha, like the chewing gum, exactly. Who knew that? I'm giving you examples, about 7, 8 examples. The idea, one of the excellent approaches, in case if you want now in this time, to help your kids, to help yourself. If someone is asking you, or forget someone, you yourself, for yourself. How can I know that this Quran is from Allah? If you can't give an answer, where did Muhammad brought 1,000 verse about scientific miracles that we know now? If you can't provide a counter answer against this, you have no option but to accept it. For your satisfaction. Type. If you want to argue with someone seeking the haqq, if someone is just arguing, not seeking the haqq, don't waste your time. Don't waste. How do I know someone is not? You can listen. He's curious to know. All while you are answering, he just cut you, go to something else, something third, fourth. He's not seeking the haqq. If someone is looking for the haqq, this is one of the great ways. Go and listen to Richard Varley. Do you have extra 5 minutes? I give you another example. This is an approach by itself. Richard Varley. I mean by Richard Varley the idea of scientific miracles in the Quran. Now let's talk very quickly about Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. How did or how can we prove that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is an? Now I urge you to go and read and listen to someone with the name of Gary Miller. Gary Miller. This story happened 1977 here in Toronto. Gary Miller is a university professor in mathematics and a priest in one of the churches here in Toronto, in Canada. He's a Canadian. And to the best of my knowledge, he's still alive. He's 80-something now. Now, the amazing part of the story. Gary Miller was a very clever mathematician. He was appointed by his church to do a research to find mistakes in the Quran, in the debate in early 70s in Toronto between Christians and Muslims. Believe it or not. Subhanallah. She was given a mission as a clever mathematician. Please find what? Mistakes on an argument. I remember myself when I did my PhD in 1997 in the UK, I watched the video of the debate of Gary Miller and Ahmed Deedat in 1977 on a video, VHS, when he was a Christian. I remember. It's about 1 hour, about 2 hours debate. When I looked at him, I said, Subhanallah, he's a very, very just, honest debater. Very polite when he was a Christian. Yeah, anyone listen to him, he said, it's this person impossible not to be a Muslim. And he became a Muslim. Now what happened to him? One of his beautiful research, because when you look to the others who were outsiders, their way, how they look to the Islam, it's not like you and me. We are born Muslims and many things have been taken for granted. We don't think about them. Others, already they refuse what you have. So they came with doubts. They came with a with this attitude of finding mistakes. So he was searching. I will just highlight 3 of his results and I will finish my talk, just as a way of an approach. He was looking and searching. He found something amazing. One of his findings is the following. He said, wait, Muhammad is supposed to be a liar. Now, for Orientalist, Muhammad is what? Genius. Arab, a liar who claimed to be a prophet, and he composed this book and he was brainwashing his followers, and he promised them with a paradise with 72 virgins and this kind of lies. Okay? This is basically the narrative. Okay. So he came with this background. Okay. He said, okay, a liar. He wanted to gather his people, his Arabs. He worked with them 23 years, brainwashing them with lies, and he wanted just to have power. And he conquered Persians and the Romans type. Let me just analyze the facts. 23 years, he discovered that his wife Khadija is not mentioned in his book. The most beloved to his heart, many years before the claimed prophethood, many years after the claimed prophethood, no mention for Khadija in one ayah or one chapter. How come? Right. Next. The second most beloved to his heart, Aisha. No mention. No ayah about her name, no chapter of her name. The most beloved of his daughters, Fatima. How many chapter with the name Fatima? 0. How many ayah about Fatima? 0. How many ayah praising Fatima and Khadija and together? 0. Now what made mind-blowing for him when he came across the chapter Mary. Who's Mary? The mother of Jesus Christ. Who's Jesus Christ? The core pillar of the religion of the Romans, whom he's fighting, and they want to eliminate him. He said, look, common sense. A liar who invented the religion. He did not mention his wife. He did not mention his second wife, nor his daughter, nor his beloved father. Where is the mother and father of Muhammad sallallahu in the Quran? Actually, in our Sunnah, he was prevented from asking forgiveness for her. Do you know that? Oh. Yes. What type? Now, he was fighting with the Romans. Tabuk was against who? The battle of the Tabuk against who? Arab Christians and Roman Christians. Mu'ta against who? Arab Christians, Roman Christians. But Christianity was one of the biggest threat against him. Yet he has in his book, Maryam, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad, Dhikru Rahmati Rabbika Abdahu Zakariya Idh Nada Rabbahu Nida'an Khafiya. طيب. The Jews, how were their relation with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam politically? Fighting all the time. How many prophets of Jewish and children of Israel they are praised in the Quran? Common sense. Zakaria, Sulaiman, Dawood. In our book Quran, now I'm talking on behalf of Gary Miller. Gary Miller is reading. But if he composed this book, why he's praising all the prophets of children of Israel, and he's praising Maryam, and he's defending Maryam against the accusation while he's not mentioning any of his close relations? Common sense. He puts there's something mind-blowing. Number one. Number two. He came across Tabbat Yada Abi Lahab wa Tab, which is who is Abu Lahab? The direct uncle of Prophet Muhammad. He's cursed in the Quran by his name. Fine. When Gary Miller, he said, when I discovered that Abu Lahab heard this verse, which was supposed to be invented by Muhammad, composed by Muhammad, he died after the revelation or the composing of this chapter 10 years. He lived 10 years. Do you know? 10 years Abu Lahab was listening to this verse, to this chapter. Tabbat yada Abi Lahab ma aghna anhu wa imra'atuhu hammala fi jidi hablum min masad. You know, reciting them, he knows about it. He said Abu Lahab was in need to no more than one day to claim hypocritically that he's a Muslim and he will destroy Islam. True or false? If Abu Lahab said I'm a Muslim for one night, lying, what will happen with Islam? Because now this this chapter claims that he will die as what? As a kafir. But what if he say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? What will happen with the companions? But Ya Rasulullah, you told us that he's a tabbat yada, mal'oon, he's cursed. How come he's became a Muslim? Oh, maybe blah 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 blah, chaos, destroyed Islam. He did not. Because Allah knows for sure that he will not. Because the level of hatred that Abu Lahab is holding, even he's not able to use the approach of hypocrites. He's not able. He's full of hatred. He's just fighting. Allah knows that it was revealed. Tabbat yada Abi Lahab wa tab. Gary Miller said, no, that's impossible. Just 5 minutes, huh? 5 minutes. I will, sorry. I forgot what I was saying.
Gary Miller.
Third word, the Lahab is impossible.
Third point.
Third point, yes. What was the third point?
No, that was the third point.
Yes. Jazakallah khair. Okay. Third one, exactly third one. Ibrahim, the son of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who came, Allah gave him from Maryam Qibtiyya. You know, she was given to him as a gift from Al-Muqawqas of Egypt. In the year 8 or 9 in the Hijrah, he was 1 year and a half, more or less, about 16 to 18 months, a small child. He passed away. It happened by the will of Allah. We say coincidentally, it's by the will of Allah. Exactly at the time of his death, a small child, when they were about to bury him, the eclipse of, the sun happened. Arabs, when they were pagans, they used to think that the eclipse of the sun, when it happens either for the death of a very great person or for the birth of a very great person. It happened by the will of Allah in their language, coincidentally, exactly at the time of the death of Ibrahim. Now, once this happened, Prophet Muhammad, he lived with the pagans, he knows their culture. It came to him that they might think that the sun happened with this great universal phenomena because of his son. He could have what? If he's a liar, hasha subhanallah. Close his mouth, not mention anything, and to pretend as, you see, the universe is crying for my son. Oh, why not? Why not? It came on a golden plate for free. Why not? In Hadith Sahih, he came and he did a public khutbah very quickly. He announced between his companions, قال إن الشمس والقمر آيتان من آيات الله. He said, hey, be aware, the sun and the moon, they are from the great signs of Allah. They do not, لا يخسفان, they do not have the eclipse for the death or the birth of anyone. فإذا رأيتموهم فاسجدوا لله. If you saw them, be mindful of Allah, go and do prostration because you don't know what will happen to you. And he stopped them from even thinking that he has any kind of favor and his son has this kind of status. Now this is out of about 10 points, 3 of them. Gary Miller, he came to a conclusion, it's impossible for this person to be but a prophet. Impossible. Then he became a Muslim. He became a Muslim, I don't know when, 97, 79, 80, 81. I know from that time he became a Muslim. And he was a professor in Toronto University. I tried to search about him. I knew that he's still alive. He became a professor of mathematics in one of the American universities, but he does not have anything on the social media. I don't know why. Because I remember in 97 when I saw his videos, he was approaching 40 plus. So he is now at least 86, 88 or approaching 90, if he's alive. But the idea, what was the title? How can I be assured that the Quran is from Allah and Muhammad is a prophet from Allah? I give you just a simple idea how to deal with this approach. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sisters, they have qiyam now, so we have to leave the masjid. Assalamu alaikum.